Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in to the 14th Leadership Skills Development Summit 2021. We are about to conduct our final panel discussion for the day. I truly hope that you have been challenged like I have. We've had thought-provoking discussions and really moved. In our previous panel discussion, we spoke about entrepreneurship as the new form of employment based on market volatility, changes, the COVID pandemic, and also the demands that 4IR is placing on us as a society, as a continent, as a country to adapt and to change. Without further ado, I wish to welcome our panel discussion, which will conclude our day 2 of the summit. It is SMMEs at the heart of economic recovery. Do they possess the right skills? Well, I think Mr. Abongile Nzelenzele, who's the MD of Nzelenzele Communications, will be welcoming our panelists, and they will tell us if SMMEs truly have the right skill set to drive the economy. Welcome to you, Mr. Nzelenzele, and over to you as you'll be introducing your panel.
Tabang, thank you very much for that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome and thank you to each and every one of you for joining us for this discussion. I'd like to first off introduce Abraham Oliver. Abraham Oliver is a program manager at the Center of Entrepreneurship, and that is Rapid Incubator at Force Bay, the TVET College there. Also on our panel, standing there, I can see why I lost him on the video now, but hopefully, oh, there he is. That is, of course, Truman Hadebe, who is the Executive Chairman and CEO at the Supply Chain Academy, SCA Global. That is, of course, SCA Global. We were, unfortunately, supposed to have Tamsa Namkwana as the CFO of the NYDA, but there's load shedding happening everywhere. So unfortunately, we win some, we lose some. And also we are hoping to still be joined by Marissa Edward, who's a special projects manager at Modern Centrics Holding. Gentlemen, without further ado, as we wait for the rest to join us, maybe we can get the discussion starting. I was thinking on the way here, or maybe of the fact that yesterday me and my daughter were watching The Lion King. And in The Lion King, the narrative is simply that you have a father who expects a lot from his son, who believes that his son is capable because the son carries the family name for whatever reasons. But the problem is that you have a young Simba who wants to be capable, who feels that he could be capable, but the question remains, can he be king of the jungle? Does he have the skills to be king of the jungle? Gentlemen, Abe, I think I will start with you. You heard the question, you hear my example right over here. Maybe the first question for you overall is as simple as that. We are saying that SMMEs are at the heart of the economy recovery. Do they possess the right skills? I dare ask first, even before we ask the right skills, do they possess the skills?
Abongile, welcome. Thank you for the opportunity for introducing me as well. That's quite a loaded question. And I think you made reference to The Lion King. And if I can hook onto that, number one, if you want to take over and see it from my position, do you understand the environment in which you operate? Our SMMEs are operating in a constant changing environment. In an environment where demand and supply plays a key role. So a lot of the SMMEs supply, but where's the demand? So it's about, do they understand the need in the market? Have they done the necessary pulse check with their customers? What's their pain? What's their problem? And the product that they've designed, is it geared towards the need of that market? Also, a key challenge is competitiveness. How competitive are our current SMMEs in the market? And that speaks to the productivity, it speaks to their delivery. Small businesses have two major challenges, Abongile. They are too small, number one, the liability of being small, and two, the liability of new. And going back to your Lion King narrative, because they're so small, they make mistakes. And part of the journey for them to possess the right skills is to have a mentor, is to have a coach, so that the mentor and the coach can also guide them about their decision making. Because ultimately, it comes down to making the right decisions and the right choices. So I would summarize to say that our SMMEs need the technical skills, they need the business skills, but most importantly, the driver of the business is the jockey, which is the entrepreneur, and more must be invested in developing the jockey so that he or she can be confident about their offering.
Thank you so much for that, Abe. I was going to go to Truman Hadebe, but I see I've lost him. I'm not sure what's happened there. But if you are just joining us, I do want to remind you that the panel discussion that you're seeing on is the last one for the day. And the discussion here is that SMEs at the heart of economic recovery, do they possess the right skills? And if you were listening to Abraham Oliver there, he was talking, or the question then that I posed to him is that even before we talk about the right skills, do they have the necessary skills? And of course, that was his response. Abe, I think it's going to be between you and me for now, so you're going to have to field quite a lot of it, but I will pitch in where I can. And one of the things that I noticed is that also being in the background of being a young entrepreneur, started my business back in 2016. One of the things that I had in my mind was that I wanted to start a business. It was never a sit down of looking and saying, I think I have the supply, but is there a demand for the project that I actually, or the product that I want to put out there into the market? And you also speak about competitiveness. So I suppose what I'm saying is I'm with you. I understand what you are chatting about. But maybe we can then get into the gist of it now. We've spoken about skills in general, but you've also talked about the scope of business in South Africa in general. So here is the hope, or here is these SMMEs, where as a country we're saying, we believe you are the ones that are to take us forward. The question is, do we or do they possess the right skills? So we know what could be wrong, but do they possess the right skills? And if they do, what are those?
Abongile, maybe just to give context, the Center for Entrepreneurship and Rapid Incubator, whole focus is to assist young people to start their business, to launch their business, and to grow their business. And what we've realized over our 7 years of existence is that the entrepreneur, when he or she wants to start a business, we have a specific methodology. And we look at the entrepreneur firstly at, do they understand what they want to present to the market? Because the ultimate unit or organization that will determine if your business is going to be a success is the market. The market will tell you we need your product or we don't need your product. So we make sure that the building block is the market. But then we also look at personal development, because the entrepreneur needs to be resilient. The entrepreneur needs to persevere, because you're not going to get success within the first 6 months. You must establish yourself. So how do we assist the entrepreneur in terms of that? So market linkages is very important. Do they know how to link with the market, and how do we help them to bridge that gap to link with the market? Because he's unknown, he wants to start a business, but there's so many competitors out there. So market linkages. Financial linkages is another key area where the entrepreneur wants to get going. However, we say to the entrepreneur, start where you're at. Start with what you have and build and deliver and be visible. So how do you get visible? And another key mixture in terms of that, 90% of our entrepreneurs from disadvantaged communities don't have a role model. So how do we assist them with the etiquette to engage with customers, but also to engage with their mentors? So we look at a very structured learning program that's customized to their needs. And to determine what skills they don't have, we do an assessment. And once we assess that this entrepreneur is not clear on his business concept, nor on his customers, we then put together a design program to help to shorten the runway. So assessment of the skill, I think, is critical before you start developing and adding skills to the entrepreneur.
Thank you so very much for that, Abe. I just want to welcome Abe back into the panel, Truman Hade. Thank you so very much, Truman. We lost you there for a second. And officially now we are joined by Nizenande Machi, who is the co-founder of Luchaluna, also all joining the panel now. A reminder to everyone that the question stands: SMMEs at the heart of the economy recovery, but do they possess the right skills? We've already had from Abe, and maybe we will touch on Truman very quickly. I want to remind the panel that we're already at 1:30, so I'm very, very tight for time. But Truman, your thoughts on the question?
A very intriguing question indeed. Thank you, Abongile, and greetings to the colleagues on the call. For me, specifically, having dealt with SMMEs, in my previous life, working with corporates as well as public sector, and currently, in terms of what we do in as far as ESD programs are concerned and coaching SMMEs, it's a resounding no. If I can just substantiate that. So what you normally find more often than not, when dealing with SMMEs, you'd find that most of them are so fixated on the revenue, getting more orders and really getting into the depth of what entrepreneurship is all about before essentially establishing the fundamentals, making sure that they've got the prerequisite skills that they need to tap into that space. Just starting with things such as presentation skills, how to pitch your idea to a potential business partner or to a potential client. So for me, that has really been one of the things that I would say personally, from my observations, from what I've been doing in the past 10 years, having started my entrepreneurship journey, would really be, the overall sort of analysis that I can share. But going past that, I fully agree with Ibrahim in terms of the initial assessment, just to gauge where they are and making sure that in terms of the prerequisite skills, those that have those prerequisite skills are supported to grow those skills even more, but also giving them more, skills that they actually need to take their business to the next level. But I would like to also deviate a little bit, not to digress. I think before we talk about the right skills, for me, it would also be the question of, do they really have the necessary platforms where they could actually tap into those skills? And if you look at South Africa holistically, you go to urban areas, it's those areas that would actually find that they've got these platforms.
Truman, I want to put a hold on that, because
all right,
the sentiment I got from Abraham here is that from our question, it's a no, and from you, it's also a no. So I'm holding that question for you guys. Don't come on and say, but if you're saying it's a no, what then? What happens? What do we do from then on? Ladies and gentlemen, we've also been joined by Marissa Edwards, but we will be introducing her when we pose the question to her. So it seems we have a full panel now. I want to go to Nizenande Machi now to also just maybe share her views in under a minute and a half or so on the question that SMME is at the heart of the economy recovery, but do they possess the right skills? Your thought, Nizenande?
Hi, Abongile and everybody else here. Look, I've heard the responses and the resounding no, and I think I'd like to turn the question on its head a little bit and consider what skills do they possess that are reflective and responsive to an economy that helps them build their businesses. You know, I mean, what you will always hear me talk about is we have very Western ideals about what business is and is meant to look like. So the moment we say skills and we say attributes, most of the time we imagine it to be divorced from what is organic and what is truly ours. So for example, when you say the skills, do you mean, do they know how to make money? Do they know how to budget? Or do you mean they are able to sustain themselves and their livelihoods? Because a street vendor has the skills to make money and make sure that they are paying rent and take kids to school and pay for whatever it is that they need to pay, groceries monthly. Do they keep it on an Excel spreadsheet? No. Do they keep it in a way that for us and the competencies that we require and assume to be credible? Possibly not. But is it useful and does it matter? And is it entrepreneurship? Absolutely. And so I am almost wanting us to reflect on what criteria we ourselves are using to assess whether or not they have the skills, because I believe and I suspect that there's a big disparity between what it is that we are requiring entrepreneurs to do and be at times versus what the reality of entrepreneurship is.
Nisananda, I want to put a hold on that, and I'm going to come back to you because you've raised the question, and I think you should be the first one to sort of give us a response to that question. But I first just want to introduce Marissa Edwards. Marissa is, of course, I just want to get my notes right. Marissa Edwards is the Special Projects Manager at Modern Centric Holdings. Marissa, yes, you've joined in a bit late. We know that there's many things happening, but yes, the question stands and we want to hear your thoughts. Also, you get to have a minute and a half. SMMEs are at the heart of economy recovery, but do they possess the right skills? Your thoughts?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everybody, and I apologize for my tardiness. My connection was giving me a bit of issues this morning. Regarding that question, I wanna get back to Nzanande's comment, if I might, because it's the only one that I really caught since I've logged on. I do believe, yes, that when it comes to SMMEs, when you're talking about the street vendor, when you're relating stories regarding these little shops and stuff, yes, they might know a congregation of people might understand what it is to, deliver a product. But in terms of the full business proposal, the full business aspect of them being, sustainable, them growing, that is sorely lacking. We're sorely lacking in that. I can tell you in terms of ICT skills, Modern Centric, we run a lot of learnerships. We run a lot of, especially we focus on the persons with disabilities. We run programs for them. We run, we're also dealing right now with the SMME sustainability project. And I sorely see that there's a very, very big lack when it comes to ICT skills, when it comes to budgeting skills, financial skills. All of that is going to hinder the process in terms of this SMME growing and becoming sustainable. It's not just enough to feed your family. What happens to the instance, we're expecting these SMMEs to grow and to provide employment for other people. That we're sorely lacking in. They might have the know-how in terms of their specific product or service that they're offering, yes. But in order to grow that business and make it sustainable and have it, feed other families, because that's ideally what we're looking at. We're looking at an economic recovery for the country. So that is not something, it's not good enough that we're saying, okay, you're running your little vendor, your little table there, and you're making your bread and butter for the day. I don't think that it's feasible for us to sit here and expect that this country or SMMEs will pull us out of the hole that we're in, and yet we are not giving them the necessary skills to grow to that extent where they are able to spread and employ others.
Thank you for that comment, Marissa. And I know that I'm going to give Lisa an opportunity maybe to just reflect on some of those statements that you've made. But I just, even before we get in there, would it be fair then to say from your side, in terms of the answer to the question, it is that, yes, we've placed a whole lot on the SMMEs' shoulders, but they don't necessarily have the right skills to carry us. All right.
No.
That being said, then, Lisa, I'm going to come to you next, but I want to put in Abe into the conversation. Abe, I think you've alluded to the fact that there should be incubation, there should be mentorship, there should be collaboration, but we're going to come back to that later on. But the discussion on the table now is that Nizananda says, maybe we're asking the wrong question here. Maybe the question is not skills in general. Maybe the question is how we characterize that conversation. What should be the criteria? Are we talking here when we talk about skills under, the right criteria, or should the question be different in any case? I mean, what are your thoughts on this? You heard it.
Abongile, I think I've listened to Nisinande, and we've worked now with 15 formal traders in Mitchell's
Abe, I think I'm losing you there.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all good. As I've said, we've worked with 15 formal traders, and these traders have been supporting their families for 15 to 20 years. So they know what it takes to take a product to market. They know what it takes to satisfy a customer. Maybe as Marissa said, how do we grow these businesses? We have entrepreneurs stepping into our incubator with technical skills. They can make a product in wood, in metal. They have a HR manager stepping out of formal employment into her own business. Now they need the skills set to start and launch that business and ultimately grow the business so that they can employ people. And what we believe in our methodology is look at where are the gaps and then cover those gaps so that the individual can grow his business brick by brick and decision by decision. But there must be a platform where they know there's support for them, because entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. And if you get the necessary support and the ecosystem is there, then you will be able to move forward. To end off, we've just had a discussion with tax practitioners last week. Entrepreneurs must be able to understand the legal environment where they operate in. They don't have that when they start off, but we add it to them so that they can supply business to business and can be in good positioning. They must be able to do budgeting. And those are the skills as they grow. But I'm of the mindset that once there's an entrepreneurial intention, we need to nurture, because we need to grow that 357 jobs, 1,000 jobs that the president is saying, or by 2030 that SMMEs must provide 11 million jobs. So we need to look at how do we grow them from seed to early growth and to the stage where they can create jobs and make a contribution to the economy.
Thank you so very much, Abe, for that. I am looking at the time. We've got just only about 19 minutes before we finish, but I'd like to wrap up this conversation, bring it back to the person who initiated it, that is Nizanande. And then after that, we're coming to Truman. Nizanande, these are the thoughts that have been shared. Your then overall summary and thoughts on the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want it to be lost that entrepreneurial development is valuable. I am an entrepreneur myself. I work with entrepreneurs, Pan-African. And I think the important thing to say, the reason I say it so clearly and so boldly is I've worked with entrepreneurs in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Rwanda, in Kenya. What sets those markets apart so starkly from South Africa is that the entrepreneurial development landscape is relevant and responsive to the entrepreneur's realities. So let me use an example. The marketplace. South Africa doesn't necessarily have a marketplace. a marketplace is actually quite big, booming, and it is not informal in many countries on this continent. What does that imply? It implies, and I don't want us to make vendor small because that's our experience of it. The informal market makes up, I think, 7 billion of our own GDP in South Africa, okay? What that means is people are generating truckloads of money, but because our qualifying systems that assess whether that money is credible or not are based on means and methods that do not reflect what success looks like, then we are constantly on this hamster wheel as developers, trying to get entrepreneurs to be what already is designed to structurally exclude them. So if I am a business that is making, there are businesses making, we have, I think in our fold, close to 400 alumni, but I've worked with an entrepreneur who is in waste and waste management out in Mpumalanga. She employs 36 people. That is a stable business. She has all the compliance documents. She has everything that she absolutely needs. The thing that was the hardest thing for her to do and survive as a Black woman in this sector was because she didn't have, I don't know, it wasn't even compliance. She didn't have things that shifted and were shaped around what I have termed very Western ideals. Let's think of Silicon Valley. We like the US. Silicon Valley doesn't do business plans. They don't submit 500 papers. You go in, you pitch for 5 minutes. In some parts of it, in some parts, you pitch for 5 minutes, you come out, you even get tickets as big as $2 million just from that pitch. And then they appoint someone who has the knowledge to work and help you develop all those structural things. What I'm saying is there is an opportunity for us to be more responsive to the entrepreneurial development reality instead of saying you are good enough if you look like these things.
All right. I promise you, if I had time, because I'm loving where this conversation is going, and I can see that Marissa has a response to it already, but I'm like, I can't give you that platform. I cannot give you that platform because I'm running out of time. But Marissa, I'm going to bring you in just after Truman, because Truman raised a valid point, and I think that's what Nizananda is leading to now. And I think that's what the whole panel is leading to, that we know what the problems are, or at least we have an idea of what the problems are. That's what Truman said. The question is, though, are there supporting structure? If we want to give these individuals or equip these individuals with skills, do we have institutions or platforms to do that? Truman, please, if you could please elaborate on that. Maybe I'm not saying it like you would.
All right, Abongile, thank you once again. Well, perhaps just to echo what Sanande was saying. So I couldn't agree more. Relevance is key. So in terms of anything, whatever solution that we might be trying to work out, we need to be relevant. And coming to the issue of whether there is generic, skills that any type of business really requires to run a successful business. And here we are talking about economic recovery. So I couldn't agree more with the previous colleague that said that we need to talk about entrepreneurship at a broader scale. So coming back to the platforms issue, to be quite honest, there's a lot of us that live in a bubble. And even in terms of, some of the things that we talk about, you would find that more often than not, most of the successful entrepreneurs are in urban areas. You talk about, you start talking about whether there are platforms for township-based entrepreneurs, rural, entrepreneurs in rural areas, where they can actually go and access these particular skills, be it networking skills, be it just simple things in terms of how to do presentations, communication skills, sales and marketing. Those fundamental skills before we even start talking about financial management skills, which is something at a much more higher level. Just at an establishment phase, do they have platforms where they can go and harness such skills? You talk about the smart, the likes of Smart Exchange in Durban, for instance. Look at how big KZN is. So if I'm somewhere in the north, maybe Kwanongoma, Richards Bay, Mkuze, I'm an entrepreneur, I know what, the type of problem that I'm trying to solve. I do know where the market is, but where do I get that support? And lastly, in terms of the inspiration, where do we draw the inspiration from as entrepreneurs in those areas? Are there enough people that we can see and touch? Not something that we, some stories that we read about on the internet, or people that we see on TV, people that we can easily point and, have access to, that could sort of, be an inspiration for us to actually drive our businesses to a level where we can actually feel
thank you so very much for that, Truman. I don't know if I've lost you, but you're stuck on my screen there, or do I still have everyone? I think the internet is bad on my side. Okay.
It's on your side indeed. Yes.
It's on my side. It's on my side. I think it's better on my side. So thank you very much, Truman, for that. Maybe I'm hoping that even one of you in the panel talking about inspiration could inspire me to fall in love with finances. Don't get me wrong, as an entrepreneur, I love the money coming in, but the work of actually doing the books, I don't want to get involved in it anymore. I'm done with it. I cannot anymore. Anyways, thank you so very much for that, Truman. Marissa, you've had the conversation. Your thoughts then building on this.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be load shedding it in the next 10 minutes or so. So I want to maybe drift a little bit off, but in terms of what Truman said, in terms of opportunities, so as Modern Centric, we are currently partnering with Central University of Technology in Welkom. They have this brilliant new concept that they have come up with. They have an iGym and they have a Fab Lab. So the iGym is where you go, and that's the ideation phase of whatever, in terms of entrepreneurship, whatever you want to bring to market. They work out a lot of kinks during the iGym phase, and then they move, once you've mastered all the points there that you need to pass, then you go into the Fab Lab, where you go into the creation phase. They also have over and above that, they hold your hand and they teach you all the little business skills that you're going to require. We need more like that. In an ideal world, for me, we would have the bigger corporates who are going to take their ESD, the responsibility in terms of ESD, and do a bit of a competition and amongst a group of entrepreneurs, and see who has the most viable product, who has the most viable, service or whatever business, entrepreneurship business idea, and hold their hands for the next 2 years. Whatever they need in terms of skills development, in terms of financial assistance, because it's hard enough for an able-bodied person with a brilliant idea to find financial backing, to get their business out to market. It's so much more difficult for a person living with disability. And I feel that part of our community is largely being ignored when it comes to entrepreneurship. And trust me when I say I've interviewed so many of them at this point, the skill is definitely there. The want, the drive, the need is definitely there. And, when you look at the requirements, I always look at it as a funnel. You got to have the aptitude, the ambition, the market demand, the market access, the business skills, the financial know-how, the networking platform, and of course the time. Over and above that, there's a lot of other things that we can put in, but we got to start somewhere. And institutions like CUT partnering, because I believe SMMEs will only grow by partnerships. In this country, we need partnerships. We need companies who are rolling, the bigger rollers, to say, okay, listen, I need to pick you up and I need to drag you with me. I think that is the most viable way for us to grow SMMEs in this country at this point. Looking at the financial landscape right now, we're going to have to rely on government, yes, to a certain extent, but I think we realize with the pandemic, their resources are kind of run thin. So we're going to look at the bigger corporates. And that, for me, in an ideal world, if we could get that right, I think we'd be on the right track. Do I still have everybody, or is my connection going already?
You have us?
No,
I
you're
think
here.
it's
I
on
think it's
Abongile's side.
Abongile. Yeah, I think it's Abongile. It looks like, oh no, he's fallen off.
He's fallen off.
Okay,
So,
there he
ladies
is.
and
There he
gentlemen,
goes and comes back.
ladies and gentlemen,
I lost you guys there for a second. I don't know. I lost you guys there for a second, so I couldn't get to the last of what Marissa was saying. But I'm just looking at the time now, so I've got about 7 minutes left, but then I've been told I can go over by 10 minutes. And in doing so, in this 10 minutes, I don't want to get bogged down on asking you more questions about on this conversation, and maybe what you've heard and what you think we should be doing to move forward. Is everyone still with me, by the way? Because the screens are frozen. Yeah, my internet connection is unstable.
We just missed
everyone's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm saying now we're going to start wrapping up because we've got so many more questions to ask, and I'm enjoying the conversations and we're leaving it open-ended, and I'm sorry, and I do apologize for everyone that's joining us for that. But maybe in summarizing everything, we'll kind of get a better idea of what we need. We're going to start from the way we work with the questions. From my understanding from the panel that you are now, you are saying if we talk about skills for SMMEs, it is a no. But over and above that, we have to question the criteria of the word skills that we have used here. Also to that, maybe moving forward, we have to acknowledge that there need to be more platforms that need to be introduced to ensure that we work with the skills. And then the last point I got was, we already are starting. Yes, we are not there yet, but we've already started. That was the last point I had. So we're going to tie it all up now. I'm going to give you each, I think we can work with 2.5 minutes each. Abraham, Oliver, I think we will start with you.
Thank you, Abongile. I want to pick up on what Marissa said. I think partnerships is key for strengthening the entrepreneurial ecosystem out there. We need to ensure that the reality speaks to where our entrepreneurs are at. Our entrepreneurs are in need of a market because market will determine their success. And I think that support can't be a hit and run. We offer pre-incubation support, post-incubation support, and incubation. So it's a 3-year journey that we walk with the entrepreneur, because we ultimately want to ensure that the entrepreneur do create jobs and add to the GDP of the economy. So we need to be futuristic. We're looking at the maker space at our center. We're looking at drone technology. We're looking at coding. So we need to take our entrepreneurs with us. But in closing, I think the entrepreneur needs to respond to the reality, solve a problem, add value, and we will come alongside you to assist you to deliver the value and to ensure that your profits are realized. And what Abongile said, he don't like books, to assist them with their books as well.
Thank you so very much for that, Abe. Truman, your side?
Right, thank you, Abongile. So perhaps just to add, so as part of our contribution at the Supply Chain Academy, SCA Global, we've got international accredited programs as well as city accredited programs locally. So what we've done over a decade, but last year specifically, we've launched an online SMME development program, or should I say the Entrepreneur Development Program, which is accessible to all the entrepreneurs at no charge. So there is an online program, and I am going to ask, or maybe, before saying what I'm about to say, just to add to what Marissa said earlier, I couldn't agree more. Collaboration is indeed the key to any successful entrepreneurial journey, or for us to really start seeing true economic emancipation in South Africa. And of course, we need to take this beyond the borders of South Africa. But at the moment, just talking about South Africa, collaboration is key. And for our government, corporate SA to also come into, that journey to sort of contribute, support SMMEs. We do know, we are fully aware that entrepreneurs in their nature, and I'm a strong believer that entrepreneurship is more caught than taught. So going back to the issue of, role models, successful entrepreneurs, including those that might have actually felt in their journey, to be able to share their stories with those up and coming entrepreneurs, that would really contribute immensely in the success of entrepreneurship in South Africa. So with those words, Abongile, I would like to just leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for this interesting discussion, and to all the colleagues on the call.
Marissa, know that you are load shedding in 2 minutes, so go.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, on my side, I know that we do have a ways to go, but we have made a decent enough start. I think that where we are lacking in some instances is a lack of information. So people who want to, explore entrepreneurship, a lot of them don't have access to the information in terms of where can I obtain funding, what should this business plan look like, what is involved in running a business. And I think that is largely responsible for the number of small businesses that don't make it really off of the ground. And I think you're very, very right, Truman, to share those experiences, to have a platform where those experiences are shared with other people who are looking at, getting into entrepreneurship. They need to understand what the pitfalls could be potentially, and also what the successes could potentially be, provided you follow, a model that is like Nzenande said, we are proudly South African. Our market is not an American market. We've got to speak to our market for us to get anywhere. And I think access to information and collaboration in terms of bigger corporates supporting smaller SMMEs for a period of time, hand-holding them through whatever it is that they need to go through during that time period. The first 5 years is what's going to make or break your business. Everybody knows that. So, if you can take the first 3 years, Truman, absolutely, honestly, and Abram as well, hats off to you. 3 years whole hand-holding, that is something of a phenomenal commitment. And as Modern Centric, we're working very closely with different corporates to try and open those doors for the entrepreneurs, where you can get somebody to hold your hand, where you can get guidance, when you can get the necessary information and the necessary training in order for you to be successful. Hopefully, that the next time we have something like this, I have a longer period, because there's so much I would like to say on the subject. But unfortunately, time will not allow. So I will let everybody else get their turn before I cut off. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolute pleasure. I was fighting with Bev when she gave me an hour, and I said, this topic, I could have it for a whole day. 1 hour is just not enough for this. There's
Absolutely.
too much insight that's available out there.
Absolutely.
Nzenande, you get to finish off with your comments.
Yeah, perhaps Abongile, just where I'd like to localize my closing comments or center is on where you started around SMMEs having the capacity and capability to assist in economic recovery for South Africa, especially in a COVID-19 era. And my immediate answer and call and hope to that is a resounding yes. Absolutely, entrepreneurs are able and small businesses are able to do that. How we invigorate the market to do so is possibly something that we need to do because of COVID, where we've seen entrepreneurship as a conceptual framing and as a monolithic structure. We talk about entrepreneurs. We now need to start taking them to their diminutive expressions, because it's only in the daily and the weekly and the monthly that you develop the skill, the acumen, and the prowess as a business to do what we have called at Lucha, the first employee. Because the road to the first employee is the hardest. It's the same way it's the road to the first million is the hardest. After that, it's still hard, but it's not as hard, And so I think And that's why I'm making a call. At Lucha, we use the word reimagine a lot. I'm making a call for us to reimagine what it is that it would take for small businesses to create the very opportunity of employment. We are currently sitting at an expanded youth unemployment rate of 74.7%. The opportunities, the supply side of employment is disproportionately, in fact, lower than those who are seeking, right? And what that means is there is an opportunity in business. I don't know why in our masculinity index as South Africa, we have a fear of talking about money. For me as a business owner, money changed the game. Yes, I was incubated and I learned, and it's fine, absolutely. I believe in these things, I participate in them. But what moved the needle was when I was given the first 30,000, 50,000, 5,000 to just try myself out. Some of it became sunk costs, but most of it was a lever to next. Now we employ many people, and it's not only the skills that were learned, but it's because it was coupled with investments made in the underdog. So we need to get quite intimate with how entrepreneurs can contribute to recovery and what we mean by that. And I know I've spoken about our meaning and our understanding, because that ideological framework determines the purview and the perspective that you employ when you develop the initiatives that grow entrepreneurs, and also the outcomes that you will get. And so I think really there is a big call to all of us, players in the market, entrepreneurs ourselves, entrepreneurial developers, youth developers, through entrepreneurship, as is our case, to say, how can we reimagine what the solution will look like? And when you reimagine, whatever your intervention, are you seeing on the other side an entrepreneur holding money in their hand and an entrepreneur standing next to somebody else? And when you reach that stage, do you see them standing next to somebody else again? Because you are now starting to imagine them as income generating, preferably profit making, but also employing ability. If our imagining and our visionings doesn't do that, really our work is moot. It's nice, it makes us feel really good. It makes me feel absolutely good. But the key point of my accountability as a person who works on entrepreneurship is, am I capacitating them to a degree that they can earn money and that they can employ? So I want to leave it there, because that's what recovery would look like for me.
I'll tell you, if I had more time, I think there'd be even way more valuable insight in this. Guys, I have to say bye-bye to all of you, but I do want to tell all of you before you go, from having listened to you and knowing what it takes to start a business, and a sort of, I don't want to say mentorship, but I say someone holding your hand through the difficult times, is that, without SMMEs, they may not have, or they may have the skills, but I dare say with people like you, I think they win good hands. Thank you so very much for joining us, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon further.
Thank you, Abongile, and thank you, dear colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for the time.
Thank you.
Cheers, and
ESCOM
thank you
has
to the
spared me.
audience. We didn't see them, but thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers,
Okay,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the panel discussion on SMMEs at the heart of economic recovery. Do they possess the right skills? I don't want to add nor eliminate, but you certainly heard from our last panel. What a way to end day 2 of the 14th Leadership Skills Development Summit. Thank you so much to Mr. Nzele for conducting that panel discussion with such prestige. And sure, I'm dumbfounded. I'm so challenged by all the panelists. So certainly we'll be reaching out to you. I hope you at home have been hashtagging Skills Summit 2021. And thank you very much for tuning in. We will conclude the day just shortly after this.